2 casts later, Vic, come here. Come here. Oh my goodness. If it stays like this, I may move here. This is literally about 5 casts into the day. Oh, is that fun? I take those all day long. Don't have to be monsters, but when they're hitting a bladed jig, you know, we've got, obviously we're out here really early in the morning and the sun is just starting to rise. God's creation, it's beautiful. And I always like to start with moving baits because I don't know what's going to go on. And so you've got 2 types of presentations. You got vertical and you got horizontal. So when I come to a new lake, the first thing I'm usually going to start with is horizontal presentations. I'm going to cover some water. I start getting bit quickly, like in this area right here. Yeah, as the sun comes up a little bit more, we're probably going to slow down and do some other stuff. But right now with these low light conditions and they're eating that bladed jig as good as they are, we're going to take advantage of it. Man, you hit a lot harder than for your size, but man, that's fun though. Come here. Still, you know what? Fun. We're this is pretty cool, the area that we are in, that we started. And I always think it's funny when you go to a new lake and guys will race off somewhere and just, you know, we got to go way over here and catch it. We put the trolling motor down at the ramp because it was a good grass line and just started going there. Sometimes one of the best things you can do, just get a feel for the lake, is just start out by the ramp. I don't know if there's tournaments on this lake, but if there are, chances are there's only one launch ramp here. So they may be releasing fish around here, but the grass line had a good contour on the map that I looked at, dropped off into 6 or 7 foot of water. The grass patches right now that we're fishing are around in 4. So to me, that means that's a great place for fish to move up in the morning and start. Sometimes you don't have to jet way across the lake. Look what's around you when you first get to a lake. You never know what could happen. What's happening to us today, it could easily happen to you. Holy cow. Oh, come here. Yeah. Oh, this is so fun. Literally, that last fish, we're going to follow these up. Literally, Kirk put the camera down, I made a cast that hit the water, and he inhaled it. We're catching fish this size all day. This is awesome. One of the reasons we love coming to Minnesota is there's so many different lakes. Honestly, we've never been here before. We put it at the ramp, started fishing. It was like 6 or 7 casts. Nobody else is out here. This is so much fun that if you're just looking to explore new water, we're from Illinois, so if you're looking to explore new water anywhere you go, I love fishing Wisconsin, Minnesota. Crave the adventure, man. That's one of the best things about fishing. Crave that adventure. Start looking, take a buddy, just like Kirk and I are doing today. Go out and go fishing. We're going to explain everything to you like we always do about how we're doing it and give you hopefully the tools that you can add to your arsenal that you already have in there to help make you more successful. You know what we're doing today? It's just simple. We're just having fun. Fish on there, come here. Man, he hit that hard. Look how fat these things are. This is crazy. The fish are definitely good on their summer pattern, even though he's not that big. They're really fattening up. And what we're doing is right in between these grass patches. Right now, the hot spot and the sun's still not up yet, so I'm going to get away with the bladed jig as much as I possibly can. But these grass patches have lanes in between them, and it's not the real thick stuff. It's the stuff that is out and separated. So what we're doing is making long casts where we see openings and then bringing that bait. And sometimes you're manipulating your rod and you're moving the bait through there, but right now the fish are hanging in those lanes. So every time you change direction or you come around one of those, that's when you're getting that strike. Individual grass passes, especially in the morning like this time of year in the summertime, can be more productive than the solid grass mats. As the sun gets up, we may go into those grass mats with a frog or fish the outside edges with a jig or a wacky worm. We just don't know yet. Right now I'm taking advantage of the low light conditions and doing what those fish are doing. They're sitting on the inside of those patches waiting for bait fish to come by. Unfortunately for that one, my bladed jig came by. Let's see what else we can do. Very next cast. Very next cast. Whoa. Whoa, come here. Yeah. I can do this all day long. This is fun. I'm gonna show you something. You see the dock in the background. I'm not fishing the dock. There's a grass patch off to the left of that boat dock. I'm gonna throw back in there again and see, but it's not so much the docks, it's the grass patches right now in between the docks like we were talking about. This is fun, especially when it comes together, and it comes together so quickly. You're in for a heck of a day with a lot of fish. Again, we're just gonna keep following along. If they stop missing that bait or they stop they start not getting hooked good or just swirling on the bait, then it's probably time to start switching to something. Just because the bait is working now doesn't mean it's going to work all day, but I'm going to ride this train for as long as it stays on the track. All right, just kind of as I figured, that sun's getting up. He's not a monster, but it's a start. We've had to slow down. They completely went off the bladed jig bite as we thought. And it's not a huge one, but we're going to see. And as you can see, winds died down. Now we're going to have a clear bluebird skies, and sometimes you're just going to have to slow down. So we're just going to go back over the area that we were, because there were so many fish there when we started. Kirk's going to be throwing a frog, I'm going to be throwing a wacky, and this is how you put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I would have loved it was just bladed jig bite all day. That's fun, but it doesn't always work out that way. But when you locate areas, and this is this is probably 300 yards where we have a bunch of fish on, we're just going to go back over it again because there's too many fish just to leave that. So I talk once in a while about bait rotation, and that is about having different baits in your arsenal, having different tools in your box to use. So right now we're going to take a different approach. They're off the bladed jig. How could I tell? 3 fish in a row missed the bait. I saw them miss it. Early this morning, as you all saw, they were engulfing that bladed jig. That's how you want it. That rod was loading great. As soon as they went off that, I'm not going to try to force feed them a bait, no matter how much I like throwing that bait, because then I'm wasting my time and not being productive. When they go off a lure that you're throwing, start switching to something else. And right now, with that sun getting high, they're either going to tuck up in those weeds, or chances are they're going to drop off on the weed lines. We're going to explore both and keep catching fish. Come here. Man, are they strong in here. Holy cow. Come here. Goodness gracious, get in here. We'll take that. All right. Open your mouth there, buddy. There you go. I'm using a VMC red line for a wacky worm hook, and they don't come off that very often. There we go. Get that fish there. I've got to show you this. This is cool. This is a brand new bait that we have coming out here from Lure Parts, called the Wiggle Stick, and it's our version of a wacky worm. And if you notice, it's got real bulbous ends on here. It's not made with salt or sand, and I'm going to tell you why. We've made it with a new sinking plastic, and what that does, and it's scented with our Crunch, and they just don't let go of it. That fish about ripped the rod out of my hand. That was fun. But the cool thing about this is plastic is so soft, and you just twitch the rod tip. We'll show it to you in the water in a little bit, but those ends just keep shaking very subtly. And then I'll just twitch the rod tip. It'll bend, and then those bulbous ends will work independently. It's really cool. It's got a completely different action. Why did we not use salt or sand? Although we know that works, and there's tons of baits out there that it works that way. What happens is every time you catch a fish, that salt actually tears away or tears a hole inside that bait. Your baits don't last very long. I've caught up to 19 fish when we were testing this on one bait, and it's because it's super soft, but it doesn't have the salt or the sand in there, which leads to a bait being more brittle. So what we did is we have a sinking plastic where you don't need a weight or anything on it now, but also your bait is going to last longer. We started off this morning with a bladed jig. So this is a 1/2 ounce Lure Parts Online bladed jig that I built myself, Gold Blade, bluegill colored. Whenever I come north, I always make sure that I have a bladed jig with a bluegill colored skirt. It just makes sense. That's what they're feeding on in these weeds. We saw them there, so the bladed jig was a good obvious choice at low light. Now the rod and reel combination that I threw it on, this is actually part of my signature series from Mudhole. This is a BMBS 7.4 10-20. Just look for the Jim Crowley signature series bladed jig rod. It's a 7.4. It's a composite rod. So it's got a glass softer tip going into an awesome graphite backbone. This rod's got a lot of power. I love fishing this around grass because when those bigger bass get in that grass, this rod has the power to pull them out of there. It's also going to be a good buzzbait rod for you guys, as well as you guys who like to throw a lipless bait. So this is just a great stick for a lot of things, but it really excels for a bladed jig. Reel, one of my absolute favorite. I say this all the time in the Cast King lineup. This is a Mega Jaws Elite 7.4-to-1 gear ratio on here. Plenty of power. What an awesome reel. And 7.4-to-1 is a great gear ratio for a bladed jig because I can slow it down enough, and when I need to pick up line quickly, this is a perfect reel for that. I actually use this reel for bladed jigs. I use it for top waters, and I use it for spinner baits. Great setup. I'm throwing it on 17-pound Suffix fluorocarbon. I like fluorocarbon line because it's got a little bit less stretch, and it's just really abrasion resistant, especially coming through all that grass. Worked out pretty fun for me today because this is also one of my signature series rods. This is a spinning version, what I use for jerkbait. I also use it for a wacky worm rod. And this is an MB68 10-17. Again, just look for the Jim Crowley signature series. It's a wacky worm jerkbait rod. And I like throwing both those on a spinning rod, so that's why I have it. This rod kit comes complete with the microwave guides on here, as well as a compressed carbon fiber American tackle reel seat and really extremely comfortable grips. Now, the reel I'm using on here is one when I first started using a lot of Cast King stuff. This was the first reel I went to. This is a Speed Demon Elite. 7:4-to-1 gear ratio on the spinning reel. One of the fastest, if not the fastest spinning reels on the market. I can take up almost 28 inches of line per turn with this reel. On top of that, it's got 10+1 ball bearings and over 17 pounds of drag pressure. It's an awesome jerkbait reel, but when I'm skipping up wackies, as you saw us do earlier today, underneath a boat dock and a fish strikes, there's not a reel out there that picks up line faster and lets me set that hook and do my best to get that fish out of here than the Speed Demon Elite. This is a size 2000. That's what I use in this reel for jerkbaits as well as wacky worms. Phenomenal reel, extremely light setup. This has been great for me. Now, the line I'm using, as always, my spinning reels all start out with Sufix 10-pound 832. It's a sinking braid. Then I go on this lake because I noticed that there's a lot of grass in here. There's a little bit more stained water. I up from 8-pound fluorocarbon to 10-pound Sufix fluorocarbon, and I'm glad I did because a couple times when those bass wrapped me around those docks, probably the only reason I got those fish in is because I upped it from 8 to 10-pound test, so I could get away with that on. I'm using a size 2 Redline VMC hook, deadly. In a lot of cases, you can blow the hook set. Obviously, I don't recommend that, but if you do, the Redline hook is very forgiving. It's extremely sharp and really gets the job done. Ain't that new wiggle stick? Oh, down the hatch. What a fun time we have had today. Get that Redline hook. What a beautiful fish that is. Build your own stuff. You know, it's always fun catching fish, but it's even more fun when you catch them on stuff that you made. In a new line of plastics we have from Bass Academy, we designed it for one thing, for you to catch more fish. So glad that you joined us today. Thank you. Until next time, God bless you. I'm Jim Crowley. We'll see you soon.